Brought to you by Penguin.
The Story of the Streets, written and read by Mike Skinner. Introduction. A song is a moment in time, but the time it takes to write that song might be many moments when opposing emotions are felt. I've talked about this a lot while taking cocaine on tour buses, but it's just as much of a bugbear for me when I'm not under the influence. If there's one illusion I'd like this book to lay to rest, it's the idea that a particular song or rap or whatever expresses one emotion, and therefore the person who made it was necessarily feeling nothing but that emotion throughout its making. I don't know why setting everyone straight on this point has become so important to me over the years. Maybe I'll find out by the end of the last chapter. People tend to think that because a piece of music inspires them to feel a particular way, that emotion must somehow be inherent in it. Empirically, that is not the case. All of us would appreciate that it's not possible for a digital file resting on the internet to have a soul. Yet, in the end, that is kind of what it boils down to. I'm here to tell you that it's just a load of numbers in a machine. But some of those numbers work better than others. And I have no doubt that Richard Dawkins would agree with me that it's in the exact nature of those equations that the true mystery lies. Because so many more people experience music as consumers than as creators, these two very different processes, making music and listening to it, tend to get transposed, as if they're mirror images of each other. Obviously, there's an emotional element that goes into the song on the part of the person or people who write and perform it, and there's an emotion that comes out in terms of the reaction that it inspires in the listener. But where the listening experience is basically one thing, what you're putting into a song when you're writing it is a lot more diffuse and all over the shop. There might be an emotion that gives you the original idea, but you make all sorts of decisions for all kinds of reasons along the way in terms of how to flesh that idea out. Some of those decisions, maybe most, or even all of them, will end up being mistakes, but those mistakes might end up being the things about the song that people like best. So you shouldn't try not to make them. A story works the same way as a song in that regard. There can be many reasons why a story got to be the way it was, but once the story's written, that's it. When I consider a subject about which I am not knowledgeable, say modern art, I realise that my ignorance of certain artists probably means that the incredible authenticity they may have just goes over my head. I don't know much about Mark Rothko, but I know what I like. And I also know where the vast majority of my modest allotment of Rothko knowledge came from, a TV programme called The Power of Art, presented by that cat who helped out with the royal wedding coverage, Simon Sharma. It was a really good show. He took one work of art a week and went into the story of it. By the story, I mean the melting pot of all aspects of humanity surrounding that piece of art. The story of the artist, the story of the individual work, the historical context, the art movement it was a part of. The longer my own personal University of Life thesis goes on, the more I realise that what you do or don't think about all of those things totally informs how you receive the art. I used to think music was just sound, but now I know there is a lot of story in it as well. To take an obvious example, if you've got 4 18-year-olds playing fairly ordinary rock and roll, finding out whether they happen to be football hooligans from Portsmouth or mountaineering buddies from public school will certainly inform how you receive the noise they make. This book is going to try and get as close as possible to the full story of what informed the noise of the streets. Obviously, that's something I should be fairly well qualified to know about, and I'm going to be as honest as the publisher's lawyers will allow. I'm also going to attempt to tell the story in a way that reflects the haphazard and indecisive way in which creativity actually evolves, as well as with the kind of deceptively straightforward chronological progressions which make writing a book easier. There's a great deal of self-delusion in songwriting. A lot of people write a song quite quickly and then they feel like it would be sacrilege to alter it. I suppose they like the idea of saying, "It just came to me." To be fair, it is sometimes possible to come up with something that's going to be around for ages in the time it takes to boil a kettle, but that's not the way it usually works. I couldn't put the process into better words than...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?